So today's lesson is called Fractions and Decimals. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to, once again, know what a rational number is, as well as convert, so we'll change a fraction to a decimal or decimal to a fraction. So first off, a little review. Remember, in your notes, I want rational numbers. So rational number, it can be any number written as a fraction. So there's a couple different examples I'm going to have you put down. So for example, 2/5 is a rational number. -4 5/7 is a rational number. 0.007 is a rational number because we can write it as 7/1000. And how do I know it's 7/1000? Because I have the ones place. Not ones, haha. Tenths, hundredths, and then what's that very last place? Thousandths. That's why I know to put 1,000 there. So I write that as a fraction. And then I also have -18. Why -18? Because I can write it as -18/1. So I want all of these examples, every single example, I want in your notes as well. How do we know it's a rational number? Because we can write these as a fraction. Now rational numbers can be broken up into two different categories. We have our fractions and decimals. So for example, 5.9, 7/8, -3.04, and -1 1/2, so different fractions, decimals. And then we have integers. Now integers, remember, they're negative, positive whole numbers, including 0. So I want the two different categories in your notes. I want all the fractions in your notes as well as all the integers. We're going over the different types of rational numbers. And then integers can be broken up into our negative integers, so -1, -2, -3, on and on and on. And then our wholes. Why is it a whole? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, no fractions, no decimals. And then we can break those apart into 0, which is just 0, as well as naturals, natural numbers. Why is it called natural? Because naturally we count 1, 2, 3, 4. So in your notes as well, I want everything else that we've gone over. I want negative integers, wholes, 0, and naturals. So now that we've done a review, we're going to go over converting fractions and decimals. So I want everything in your notes. I want the title, I want the fraction, put 3/8, as well as the decimal form. I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. So I have my 3/8, which means it's 3 divided by 8, or if you want to write it out, 3 divided by 8. So how would I set that up? We're going to dividing 3 is divided by 8. We're going to divide 3 into 8. So I go ahead and set that up. Now, why did I put a little decimal right here? Why did I put a decimal there? Because 8 can't divide into 3. 8 times what will give me 3? Nothing. So I added my decimal, then I add my 0, 0, and 0. So we're going to be taking a look at 30. How many times can 8 go into 30? Let's see, 8 times 2 gives me 16, 8 times 3 gives me 24, 8 times 4 gives me 32. So it looks like it's going to be going in 3 times. So I should put a 3 up here. So don't forget your decimal because I forgot it. We put our 3 up, put our 0, we put our 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. We subtract it. Now what's 30 minus 24? It gives me a 6. And then, since 8 can't go into 6, remember all we're doing is just bringing down that 0. All we did was bring down the 0. So how many times can 8 go into 60? So let's see. 8 times 5 gives me 40. 8 times 6 gives me 48. 8 times 7, 56. 8 times 8, 64. So it looks like 8 times 7 is our winner. So we'll be putting a 7 right there. So I put my 7. 8 times 7 is 56. I subtract. I'm going to get 4. Bring down my 0. And now I know that 8 times 5 will give me 40, so I put a 5 up there. 8 times 5 is 40. We subtract. I get 0. So what's my decimal? My decimal is 0.375. So this is how we take a fraction, we do long division, which will convert it into a decimal for us. Now, we have this decimal. Now, how do we say this decimal correctly? Because I just did 0.375. It's actually 375 thousandths. Why? Because of the place. Remember, this is tens. This is hundreds. And this last place is thousands. That's why we have 1,000 here. Why? Because of the last place of our last number. Tens, hundreds, thousands. That's why we have 1,000. And this fraction, 375 thousandths, if we divide it by 125 each, what do we get? We get 3/8. So that's telling me that this decimal is the same exact thing as this fraction. They are equivalent. They are the same. They're just in a different form. So now we're going to go over some new terminology. So the first one we're going to be going over is something called a terminating decimal. So what this is, so first off it should be in your notes, is when division ends with a remainder of 0. We're looking for 0. So make sure this example is also in your notes. I'm going to show you what a terminating decimal looks like. So we do 25 divided by 7. Of course that can't go in. It's 25 times 7, so I add a decimal, add a 0, bring my decimal up. So let's see, 25 times 2 gives me 50. 25 times 3 gives me 75. So it looks like 2 is my answer. So I put a 2, subtract 50, I get 20. That doesn't work, so bring down a 0, bring down to 0. So let's do some more math. Let's see, let's do 25 times 4. That only gives me 100. Let's do 25 times 8 then. 0 and 4. There we go. That will give me 16. That will give me 200. So put an 8 up here, subtract 200. And what do I get? I get 0. Was I looking for? Remainder of 0. What do I have? Remainder of 0. So what's my answer? Negative 2.8. It ends. Do I just keep going on and on and on? No, so it stops. So terminating decimal, 0.28. Make sure you have this example as well as the math. Now, going right down, definition for the repeating decimal. Now, let's erase this a little bit. Repeating decimal. This one is the same block of digits repeats infinitely many times. So remember, sometimes you see this 3, 2, and this little line above it. That's telling you that it's repeating an infinite amount of times, that little line. So I'm going to show you with this example what it looks like. So I'm doing 3 divided by 1. 3 can't go into 1, so I add my decimal, 0, 0, 0, bring up my decimal. Let's see, how many times does 3 go into 10? Well, it'll be 3 times, subtract 9, bring down a 0, 0. 3 goes in 10 3 times, subtract 9. Then we do a 3 again. If you notice, it's the same block of digits repeating. So what I get? I have a 3, a 3, and a 3. So how would I write this? It'd be 0.3. Which one's repeating? It's just my 3. So I put a little line above it, and this is an example of repeating decimal. It's the same number over and over and over again. So my answer would be 0.3, but you need that little line above it. So in your notes, I want you to write down the title, table of fraction, go write down fraction, and go and write decimal. Make sure you leave some space in between them. So, how do I change this fraction into a decimal? Well, we're just going to do some dividing. So let's see, we have 5 divided into 4. I need to make sure to add my decimal, add my 0, put it up there. So 5 times what will give me 40? It's going to be 8. 40, I end up 0. So what's my answer? 0.8. And if you look at it, this is a terminating or a repeating decimal. This is a terminating decimal. How do I know? Because it just stops. It's just 0.8. Now, how do I change a decimal into a fraction? How do I do that? Remember, I showed you a little bit what to do. We have to look at the place. So I have my tens and my hundredths place. So remember, this is technically 3 over 100. The question, though, is, can I simplify? The answer is no. So what do you think my answer is going to be? Since I can't simplify, my answer is just 3/10. So now, on your own, go and try to solve 7/20ths and 6.7. How to change this into a decimal and this into a fraction. So 7/20ths. Let's do some long division. So 20 can't go into 7. Put my decimal, 0, 0, 0. So add a decimal. So 20 can go into 73 times, so I get 60. Subtract that, I get 10. Bring down my 0. 20 can go into 100 5 times, so I have my decimal, 0.35. Now is this terminating or repeating? It stops, so this is a terminating decimal. Now, how do I get 6.7 into a fraction? Well, let's take a look. I have my whole number 6. So I'm going to put my 6 right over here. Now, what place is my 7th? My 7th is in my tens place, so it's 7/10. And then the question is, can I simplify? The answer is no, so this is just going to be my answer. Now, also in your notes, I want every rational number either terminates or repeats when it's written as a decimal. Make sure that this is in your notes. Now, go and write me a 2-sentence summary. We learned about terminating decimals, repeating decimals, we reviewed over rational numbers. What things did you learn today?